the verse that people are very familiar with, that these are they who with women have not been defiled, for they are virgins. These are they who follow the Lamb wherever he goeth, and these by Yahshua were redeemed from men, firstfruits unto unto the Lamb. This is a very, very bombshell dropping, information loaded verse, and it's going to take us a little bit, and we're not going to go, this is it. We're going to be landing the plane on this one, because it's going to take us a little bit of time. The very first word is the root is hey noon, and the mechanical translation would be these. And so since we know that, what has been, this is the stuff that is so significant. What was placed on the inside of the hey noon? A lamed yod.
Yeah.
This is inward instruction. Because lamed means to teach and to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we're already defining the beginning of this as an inward instruction, lamed, teacher of light, that brings forth power within. Yod Dalet, which is the door inside where revelation will come, so that you have authority. Wow. And again, because we that kind of stuff doesn't cross over into translations, it gets lost. Hence why it's so important to dig these things out, because this is setting the precedence of who these 144,000 are. Moving on from that, so to finish that, I guess, what we're talking about is that the revelation is coming for inward authority, where you are going to be instructed and learn what you need to, that'll give you power on the inside while in the fallen flesh suit. So the point I want to make is the 144,000 have flesh, just like you and I. But we just saw on tune, which means their flesh will have been made through the word. But Antun also had a flesh nature that's going to look like everybody else's. So when Yeshua was the word made flesh, he didn't look different than anyone else, but he literally was a different human being from everyone else. Kind of let that sink in for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He was a different human being, although he looked the same.
Yeah.
So the next word, which is mechanically translated as which, who, or that, the root is hevav. So again, we have a significant morphing from the original root. So if hevav is the root, that's the only thing that's left.
Mm-hmm.
It's morphed.
Yeah, it's hugely morphed. And what I highlighted right here, this is the constituent letters that make up the symbol noon. So this is how you spell it. Noon vav noon.
Noon.
This is also the Hebrew word for fish. So this is a multiplication term. And again, the early church or assembly, however you want to call them, those who were the witnesses in the testimony of the way, used the fish to symbolize the multiplication process of what? The oneness unity. And this is directly connected to the spirit. So the spiritual path that is connected to the material walk in the flesh. And obviously the spirit and the material are in conflict with one another, but it is meant to produce life, heirs to the throne of our own mind that produces a strong, stable base, as it is the seed of life for the unity consciousness. So that says a lot in the first two words that are just, these are, these are, okay, these are. Well, There's a lot more going on that people don't see. Moving on to the next word, we have they were once nothing. These who were that, who were once nothing. Mechanical translation, not exactly what you see below with Etheridge, but this is the mechanical translation. And the root is Aleph, Yod, Nun, Aleph. Aleph, Yod, Nun, Aleph. There's the Lamed Aleph, or the Lamed Yod again, just like it was here. So we're already seeing a pattern being established that these who qualify as 144,000 have authority on the inside. Now, we were just discussing that when the beast ego is over us, it has authority over us. But in this case, twice now, this has morphed into the words saying, no, they have been instructed. They have authority on the inside, giving them power. And this is directly, the Lamed is connected to the staff of authority used by a teaching shepherd. So this is already beginning to tell us what the qualifications are. But what I think is most beautiful about this, so the Nun was removed. The Nun, they took the Nun out. But that's because the Nun was over here. It was like a redundancy. They didn't really need it. But there was something that they were trying to get us to pay attention to that you would never see unless you dig it out in the original languages. And it's the word ayil. Do either one of you know what ayil is? We've talked about it before, probably in multiple conversations. But if you don't remember, that's okay.
Oak tree, strong.
Illuster, ram. Right. This is a symbolic.
That's a good word.
This is a symbolic meaning for priest, who is a strong leader. So again, if you're not digging, you wouldn't know these things. So this is adding more to the mystery, or solving the mystery of who the 144,000 are, because this is literally anytime you would see pilaster. Anytime pillar or pilaster is written, it is a symbolic meaning for the priesthood. They are the pillars that uphold. So here's another part of the qualification. These are strong leaders that have power within them, that have been instructed, that are the teaching shepherds having the staff of authority, who give the power and the ability to be connected to the Father while in the flesh. And so really they are God, that has power on the inside. So it's funny because they've got power on the inside there, but they have power on the inside here too, with that Lamed Yod that we were talking about, because that was what was added as well. So they have two forms of power on the inside. And I don't remember, I think it was just you and I, Regina, where we were looking at that one word and it talked about resurrection. And it had to have two yods on the inside of the word for resurrection. Well, here you got it. There's two yods on the inside of this word. So they have resurrection power. So something significant has happened inside of them because the path that they have chosen to be instructed on the inside. That's why that dalet is so significant. Because if a teaching shepherd doesn't come and knock on the door of your inner man, you would never know to open the door to have revealed what you need on the inside so that you could have authority on the inside. You would have no way knowing. You would have no way to know. And that's why, again, another thing that Yeshua did was presenting the door and being the door. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Hello, open up your heart. I've got a seed vision I want to plant in you so that you can have authority on the inside. Get rid of that beast ego that says we're separate, because you need to know we're one. And that's where our strength comes from. Hence the ayil, the oneness strength, because that vision was placed within you that instructed you on the inside. That is so crazy. I forgot to add this. Okay, so what I just said to you about the priesthood, This word, oh my gosh, this is so significant. The mechanical translation says they were once nothing.
Mm.
And that's ayin. They were once nothing. But now they're something. Because the lamed was put in place of the noon. That's really significant. I didn't want to skip over that. That's extremely significant. So this is saying that these are people that are from nowhere, that are nothing. They're nobodies. But they become somebody as the 144,000 because of the work they did on the inside. That's super fantastic. Okay, so I almost got to sit on that one for a minute. So the next word translated as with is de'am. And the root of it is ein mem. But if you've noticed, as the root of being ein mem, it now has a dalet in front of it. So again, where we were talking about the significance of the door, behold, I stand at the door and knock. This is already letting you know that this is given. This is why this is significant, because the word translated with is actually the word meaning tribesmen of Israel. Ein mem.
Okay.
The tribesmen of Israel. It's people, but it's specifically the tribesmen of Israel. So the door comes to the people who are the tribesmen of Israel, so they can go inward to find the revelation that they need to give them vision on the inside, the purpose, access to the fountain within through the living waters of the teachings of mother and father, so they can complete their journey and be in the above waters out of the chaos of the waters below. I just love it when the door is thrown in there because it makes a lot of sense. So the door is given to the people. And we've read before that anyone can graft into this. This is like an open invitation, because technically all of the tribesmen of Israel have been scattered amongst the nations everywhere in the entire world. So this isn't saying that you have to go and have a genetic test done to say you are or you're not. If you can see it, you can become it. Because it's all about setting our intention in order to make it happen, because we create our reality. So if you see this, you can become it. If you can't see it, then that means there's some more work to be done. But if I'm explaining it and it makes sense, then you can qualify. Because the way is being made for you right now in creating this new reality so that your mind can be pierced and be changed and become something different than you were before. So as we move on, knowing that this is opened up to a group of people, sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. This is the word nasha that they translated as women. That's not the word for women. That is the word for mankind. Very sneaky. Nasha. So mankind that chooses to take the spiritual path through the consuming fires that would burn away all that needed to be burnt, leaving one, unified, echad, no longer divided, no longer separated, because the beast ego says we're separated. So mankind, it already has a prophetic meaning over it. You take the spiritual path, it'll burn up the beast and you will become one. It's right there. It's a prophetic declaration. And they decided to make it specific and say women when it's all of humanity. And that is also right here, a people group of humanity.
Well, they probably felt like they had to define it because a woman can be a virgin and a man. They don't see men as virgins.
But we're gonna see more as to what this is about the virgins to understand what virgin really means.
We're patriarchal.
Yeah.
Meddling.
Yep. I honestly think you're right, Jesse. I think it was patriarchal meddling. The more I see that, the more I'm like, yeah, I can totally see that.
Sure.
Yep. So the word that they have translated next for not, we know that the higher dimension frequency of looking at it doesn't mean that you're disqualified. What it's saying is that you need to be instructed in the law of one, in the way of one. So a teaching shepherd needs to come and present this principle to you. So it doesn't disqualify you. And that's the part of the higher narrative that we need to let people know, that it's not a declaration to say that you can't. It just means you need some instruction so you can become. And like I said, if you can see it, you can become it, because there is a process, a teaching of the way so that you can become this. That's what's so fantastic. That's what gets me excited to dig into this every day. It's like, wow, that's been offered to me. Are you kidding? I'll take it. I'll pick up that. That's awesome. So the next word that we are looking at, so we have looked at oh, this is the part that I needed to add too. So it's mankind, but this word or this letter order, nasha, is the same letters for the word meaning to lift up. So this process is to lift up humanity. And when we're talking about lifting up, because we understand what that is, we're talking about lifting up in the consciousness level out of the beast ego nature. That's what lifting up is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can see something higher. That's so amazing. That I forgot to talk about that with Nasha. So I'm really glad I have my notes, because that's a very important point. And I'm really tired because I only got 3 hours of sleep. Things are falling out of my head. So the next word that they have used to say defiled, you guys are going to really like this. This is one of those duality things that you can see how they have taken and how they have twisted and turned things around to make people think that they're disqualified. Hence the Lamed Aleph being not, and then using the word to say they're polluted or they're defiled or they're soiled.
Mm-hmm.
This word also means to anoint. So that means, Lamed Aleph, that a teaching shepherd of light is going to come in and instruct you in the way of one so you can be anointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, this is the fun part. This is where I get super excited. The root of this word, because this means to anoint and to cover and smear with oil, the root is tet sheen. What's in front?
The Vav? Or are you saying, Aleph Tav?
Aleph Tav, yeah.
So this is the same word for defiled.
Yep. But it also means to anoint and to besmear with oil. And they chose to put defiled. So we're talking about the lifting up of humanity through a teaching shepherd that'll come to teach you the way of one through the Aleph Tav in order to anoint you so that you are connected in your heart as your heart being pierced and are connected in meekness to the Father. Because Mother took you through the way of the Aleph Tav to teach you the process of oneness in the beginning so that you could be marked with the covenant of her frequency of the golden rule, which then gives you access to connect to the Father, because nobody can come to the Father but through the Mother first, which is what Yeshua represented. He came to show us that. He came to show us the way through the Aleph Tav. So we could be anointed with oil.
Yes. Hallelujah.
I know. So we have to realize it has a tet in it, though. So that means we're going to wrestle with the process. It's not something that's going to come automatically. And we all know, because we've been taking time to wrestle with the letters. And at the beginning, it's been very difficult. It's caused wrestling within us. intentional, because that wrestling is what allows you to connect on the inside to your heart. Gosh.
Well, I would identify this process of being here and having to navigate my own egoic lesser nature amongst you and Dad. You guys having been my teachers of light is how I, recognize this kind of this breakdown. And so, but it's a difficult process because you guys are abrasive to me.
Yes, we are. In love.
Yes, Jesse, you have a higher challenge because you're living day in and day out on, Ken and Carrie are both pretty evolved in this, more so than most. And so you're living right in it. That's a lot.
Yeah, but it also gets rid of the confusion for me, which is what I was living in prior. So,
yeah.
Anyway. And it is intense until you become so submerged in it that it's like you stop.
Oh, there's a point where it won't be for him, but right now.
And for anybody that gets in it, there's a point where the wrestling just ceases to be, because there's a nature that is changed within you. And when that nature changes and the beast ego isn't taking over your life anymore, it's pretty freaking fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's that raising up of the sovereignty so that you are the head over your body.
Yes. And it's that hope that you have to know to keep you going.
Yeah. And it's turning the principalities and powers. So the word Roshit, which is in the beginning in Bereshit, it has the bet in front of it, build the leadership. The Roshit means principalities and powers. So we're building it through what we see right here, through the Aleph Tav, wrestling with that lower nature so that we can take those principalities that are over us and flip the narrative. So this extrapolates out to the principalities and powers that are above us right now in the beast system. Because once we eradicate the beast in us, the beast system no longer has anything to partner with us in us, because we are now the principality and power that is over ourselves. Hence, they are null and void. So this is really significant to see this, but it does come with a wrestle. But this produces the ability to be besmeared and anointed and covered with oil, which is the same as the wording, not the same letters, but it's the same meaning for anointing with the Christ anointing. And because it's oil, we're talking
it's so contorted.
I know. I know. So this is, can connect it to the oil and the lamps of the wise and foolish virgins. And we will get back into it. But these are just like critical pieces that we have to understand this, because the 144,000 are going to come to the wise and foolish virgins to instruct them. And this is the process of us becoming that. The first fruits of the first fruits. Then we have the word Bethula. And Bethula is the word that is technically for virgins, that they've translated it as virgins. But in Hebrew, this also means to be the bride, as in seclusion. So if it's the bride in seclusion, based on the ancient Hebrew wedding, what is she doing? She's making her wedding garments in her time of seclusion, and it means to separate. So it doesn't just mean, yes, in the natural, there's reasons why a woman was to remain pure, and it was on an energetic level of keeping that vessel pure to have the connection with the energetic level of who she was going to be partnered with. So there was reasons for it. But in this situation, it's talking about us being separated and being the bride in the process of going through the Aleph Tav, which then is connected to our genetic coding, where we are regenerated and born again. so that we are in the process of separation, set apart, seclusion, working on our wedding garments. So the root of this is bet tav lamed. That's the root of it. So when we're looking at the bet tav lamed, we can see that in the inside, we have that vav. So the process of being separated and being secluded and set apart is so that we can connect to our heart. And what are we doing? Bet tav. The 2:22, where we are building love, and bath being the standard measurement as a liquid measurement. What are we measuring ourselves by? The standard of the living water, liquid measurement of mother and father. So we are building love. So the virgins that they translated, or those that are secluded, have been set apart to make their wedding garments, building love, the bet through the tav, connected to their heart, so that they have the instruction necessary to learn how to become one. Because the aleph was added. So this is the process of what they're doing. So they're wrestling with the process so they can be anointed with oil, building love, connecting to their heart, having authority on the inside so they can become one. That's what this whole process is about, the whole process. And then in moving on to that, we have the gear, and gear, if we were to mechanically just translate it out. So the gear, simple enough word, and it's translated as 4. It's just translated 4. So virgins 4, but it's the same root. The root is the same, gimel yod resh, but it means a projectile and an arrow as a sojourner. So when you hear that we are in this world, but not of this world, we're just sojourning through it. That's what's happening here. The difference with the gur is that we have now power within us in our sojourning process. And how did that happen? Well, we gathered and assembled what was necessary, gam, and it later morphed into gamel, which means we gathered light. We assembled at the water, we gathered light, which lifted us up, gave us the power within us so that we could sojourn and raise ourselves up from being poor and destitute to being the leadership, the head over our body, to be the first fruits. And then we have the word they. Remember when I was telling you about the aleph yod tav? This is the root of this word. So this is the New Testament version of the aleph tav that you would see in the Old Testament that now has power on the inside. Hence what Yeshua did for us by giving us the ability. So the journey, the aleph through the tav, through the letters of light, the beginning and the end, now has power in it. The seed vision placed within. That's really significant. And the morphing on this word, you have the yod hey, vav nun. And this is significant because in the process of us going through the letters, it then gives us the power from the Father as he reveals his teaching to us so that we can connect to him in meekness while we're in the flesh. So like I said in the very beginning, these people that are coming on the scene as the 144,000 are going to have flesh suits. There's going to be something different about them, that they're going to look like everybody else, but they've been changed on the inside. The word after that, so again, this aleph yod tav, these are beings of substance. They're not hollow. Because that yesh, that was at the root of it, meant a being of substance, to exist as a being of substance. And it's through the process of the aleph tav that gives us that and fills us up. And then the third time that this anomaly has happened, the word is translated as this and these, and it's a hey noon. The hey noon is now been translated with that lamed yod one more time. This is the third occurrence of this. We had it here, we had it here, or sorry, not there, here. And now we have it one more time. 3 times. Inside authority, power within. And this is the word they translated as these. These who have inside authority and power within. So again, not a coincidence that that happened for, the 3rd time. The next word is translated, well, the meaning of it is to cleave to, follow, and adhere. Cleave to, follow, and adhere. And the root of this word is nun, kuf, pei. Nun, kuf, pei. And the Hebrew, and this is fascinating because the Hebrew word with this same spelling means to go out as equipped. So they cleave and they follow and adhere to that which will allow them to go out as equipped. Nun, kaf, pei. So you can already see there of what's on the outside of the root. On the front side of it, we have that door again. We have the dalet, because we have to go through the inner man. We have to have somebody help open the door for us so that we can have this revelation on the inside to deliver us from our poor state where the beast has been controlling us. Because really, the beast ego nature does not want us to open the door of our heart. Because again, it is terrified of love. It is absolutely terrified of love, because that is the beginning of the end for the beast ego nature. So the equipping process is through the spiritual journey, so that we can compress light within us during the circle of time, through the mouth that speaks the languages of revelation, so that we can connect to the Father in meekness, to his revelation and teaching, where he gives us the power, means, and direction for unconditional love as those who have been equipped to give it away. And they did this by judging themselves, because it's Dalet Nun. So when we talk about the judges of the earth coming back, this is what we're talking about. Because the judges in the earth are having a standard measurement that is within them. They literally won't be judging people, but because of the mirror principle, because of who they've become, when people see them, it will be a mirror showing them what their lack is. These judges don't have to say anything. They just need to be. And what are they going to be doing? They are going to be in the position where they've connected to Father. They have his revelation and the power that comes from his love standard, his vision. So they're going to be marked different. We already showed that they're going to have different flesh. I mean, they're going to look like us. They're going to look like everyone else, but they have an inside authority in them. And they're coming as the judges because they went and took the spiritual path where they compressed the light within through the languages that brought them this revelation so they could connect to Father. So Ken has said many times that the representation, when you hear, oh, Father is coming, the 144,000 who are the judges and who are the gardeners are going to be coming in the representation as Father. So what are they doing? So they've been equipped. And how did they equip themselves? Because they cleaved and they adhered themselves to what? What they translated is lamb. Yeah. They translated this word as lamb. But it also means sheep. Lamb, singular. Sheep, plural. Same word. But within this word, we have Amar. And we've shared it many times what Amar is. Mm-hmm. It means to say, speak, announce, or affirm. Also having the meaning of word. So what are they doing? They're cleaving and adhering to the word. The instruction that comes and teaches them from a teaching shepherd of light who comes as a mother that at first will be bitter, but will instruct them in the ways of one, the living water teachings of mother and father, to raise them up to be leaders so that they can be unified as one. So they are cleaving to the word of mother who is raising them up. As a teaching shepherd of light. So that's very helpful for us to understand what the word lamb is, and they capitalized it. So when you're looking at it, you're thinking automatically it is Yeshua.
Yeah.
This is a teaching shepherd of light that will come and instruct you through the word. Or another way of saying it is, you will instruct yourself in the word as your own teaching shepherd. Because once you learn these teachings, once you learn how to read the word, you're instructed. You do it yourself. You're your own teaching shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Because the letters are what are instructing you. It's like they take over. They're full of light and love. You ingest them. They then shepherd you because they are letters of light and love. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So the teaching shepherd only has to come for a little bit to equip you, and then you're set in the way that you need to go. And you will cleave and adhere to
7 years.
What was that, Jess?
I said, what is it, like 7 years or something?
Oh, you mean to complete it?
Teacher of light. You have to be around the teacher then.
You know, it really depends on the student, because technically you could learn everything in 1 year. Well, if you want to give it enough time, it technically would be a 2-year process, because Regina and I were talking about this. It would be 6 months of mother, 6 months of father, 6 months of the vowel points, and 6 months of the cannellation marks. And then you would be literally released to do everything on your own. And of course, you would be activating along the way. I mean, as soon as you start studying the letters, it automatically what makes you want to start looking at words. Like, okay, so these letter forms words, let's see what these words are made of with these letters that are telling me something. So you already start digging it out and you get excited. And then when you get into the Father's teaching, you really get excited. Because this is like the sweet of the teaching. Mother is bitter. I mean, it is bitter because you're learning a new language. But it's not something like we have to be able to speak it and read it like a newspaper or a book. It is meant to be studied, and that's a big difference. That's why it takes me like 30 to 45 minutes to break down one verse. And if it's a long verse like this, it could take an hour because there's so much information. You can't just do a cursory glance over it and go, okay, I got it. No, you don't. Did you really look at it? It's meant to be dissected and digested in bits and pieces so that it can build you as the protein nourishment to build your body and your bones and the sinew and the muscles and make you a new being, because you ate that which is making you a new being. It's affecting your DNA. It's affecting every single cell in your entire body. So it can't be done just by reading like a newspaper. You got to let it do its work, one letter at a time, one word at a time, and then connect the dots and then have fun. See where it starts, see where it ends, see what the journey it took you on in the last hour, and then go meditate on it. Because you'll probably have to push yourself away from the table off of one verse, unless you've gotten yourself to the point where you have a lot of stamina. You know, Ken and I, after 4.5 years, we have a lot of stamina. I can go through essentially, no, I can't. I'm not there yet. I was going to say I could go through a chapter. I can't go through a chapter because there's usually too much light and I need to digest it. My head starts swimming and my heart starts swelling. And it's like, okay, I need to walk away. I need to let that settle before. I mean, when I spend time with Ken, and if he takes me on a 3-hour whirlwind tour and I'm breaking it down in bite-sized pieces for people, he's had me for 3 hours dumping these huge revelations on me. And at 3 hours, I am spent. I am done. My brain is turned off. I need to go for a walk. I need to go lay down. I need to zombify because it's just too much, you know, but we've been doing it for 4.5 years. So my stamina is intense study for about 3 hours. That's about all I can handle, is about 3 hours of intense study. I can lightly peruse, but if I'm digging deep, 3 hours is my max. And then I need to shift gears for a little bit to let it reorient myself, because it has to do its inside work. It's got to settle everything down, shake it up. So these people that we're talking about here, they're cleaving and adhering to the word that is equipping them. That's the whole purpose of them following the Lamb wherever it goeth. They're allowing the letters to go through them, and they're following the process of what the words are leading them to, so that they can learn to become one with the Father. And so what they're going to do is they're going to be following the letters where it's needing to root out the things that they need to deal with on the inside, which is generally why if people have unresolved root issues that they haven't dealt with, and I know this all too well, if you don't know there's issues and you start studying the language, those issues are going to rise up. So this is made available to everyone. Here's the Kaf Lamed, and this means all and whole, but this is also the exact same words, the same letters in Aramaic that means bride. So we were talking about the virgin. We already discussed what that meant, about those who are setting themselves apart. But then this is specifically speaking of the bride as everyone. So as a bride, if you want to go through this process, then you need to fill your cup with the sacred languages. And this cup has been filled. It's been pierced. The Dagesh is within it. So there's been a piercing, a connecting within their vessel that came through the instructions of light, where now the bride is filled and has authority. That's huge. The bride has been filled and she has authority. And then moving on after that, we have the word which means where. So we went from the Lamb, all and whole, where is a Kaf Resh. And there's no morphing on it. It's just means where, Kaf Resh. And simple interpretation of that, again, we have the cup that's been filled, again, the vessel that's been filled, that's been tamed and yoked, that has been raised up to be a first fruit leader. Because the whole process is to get us out of our beast ego, because that's what keeps us being poor and destitute, meaning that we are without something, hence why we're destitute. But it also has the flip side. The beautiful side is that you don't have to stay there. You can be raised out of it and become a first fruit. I love this language because it gives everyone hope. It doesn't set people aside and judge them and say you aren't qualified. It opens the door as an invitation for everyone. It already says everyone is qualified to do this if you choose to take the journey. But it's not going to say, oh, sorry, you can't go there. The only thing that'll keep you from the journey is if you can't see it. And if you can't see it, then that means you have a very low vibration, and there's probably some things that you need to do ahead of time. You probably don't have a really good diet, so you have a really low frequency that way. And there could be some shadow work that needs to happen. There's some blocks that are within you that your beast ego is not wanting you to look at. And so it's going to try to make a stronghold. But there are things that can be done to lift you up enough so that you can see it. That is the only thing that keeps people away from this. And then the beast ego can cause people to fear because of their indoctrination that this could potentially be doctrines of demons, and that if you go down here, you will go to hell, which is just crazy talk, because the sacred writings don't say that at all. That is man's construct. That is the ego's construct of the beast system of religion that would keep the beast ego in place. And this will set you free from it. And in this situation, it tells you 2 times in a row, because it has the Kaf here, talking about all and whole, and it has the Kaf here again to raise you up, so that everyone can be raised up through the sacred languages for anybody who wants to join. Just a choice. A couple things you have to do to get yourself ready to tweak you enough so you can see it, but everybody can do it. And then we move on to the next word that says went away, to go away, or it was. And the root of this word is an aleph zayin lamed. depart and go. So Aleph, Zayin, Lamed. And what do we see in front of it? We have judge again. Dalet Nun. So the judges are going, and they are unified as Aleph, but now they are the sword and the plow as teaching shepherds of light. And this is important because the Zayin is a very, very powerful letter, because as a sword and a plow, it can do two things. One of the things that the door has to do is it has to help till the soil to break up the fallow ground that is within an entity when they come to try to present the truth of the way. And sometimes that's very uncomfortable, and sometimes it's very welcomed. But, you know, dry, parched land is very hard to till, but it has to be turned over for the seed to be planted. And then over time, it turns into a sword because it cuts off those things that no longer serve us. And that process will instruct us. And just throwing this out here because I just think this is kind of fun. Is there coincidences? No, I don't believe them. But the beginning of this word is Dalet Nun Aleph. DNA. So departing and going. But here's one other thing that needs to be added to this word. It also means it was exhausted, weakness, and helplessness. So what is this saying to us on a deeper message? It means that our exhaustion, our weakness, and our helplessness goes away. Our exhaustion, our weakness, and our helplessness goes away. And that's not translated in there. And how does that happen? By going through the door of the inner man and taking the spiritual journey of oneness. Going through the sword and then plow and letting it instruct you. So in the process of us studying the letters of light, that's what it does for us. And it takes away our weakness so that we no longer feel weak, because it gives us the ability to stand. And then moving on into the next letter with that, in having our exhaustion and our weakness and our helplessness removed, right? We're no longer helpless to the whims of the beast ego within, because now we are a sovereign over our own domain. Then we have the word translated, it's these and this. And guess what? It's the fourth time this has happened. So what is this meaning? Since this has happened the fourth time, this is connected to those who are the quadrated, the 144,000. Imagine that. 4 is a significant number because it is the Dalet. So this again happened again. There's that Lamed Yod, the fourth time. I love these little treasures. It's like, oh, look at that. Imagine. Then we get to the word, and it's been written as redeemed, but the meaning of it means to buy and sell. To buy and sell. Now, for those who are connecting to the wise and foolish virgins, what did the wise virgins say to the foolish? Because they wanted their oil. No, you have to go to those who buy and sell oil. That is what this word is. And it's a Zayin Bet Nun. That's the root. That is so freaking fantastic. What did they stick in the middle of that word to buy and sell? A Dalet. The door on the inside. They translated it as redeemed. So the Aleph was added. The Dalet was added. And the Vav was added. So in the spirit of oneness, you start through the process of mother, the sword and the plow, that will allow you to have access to the door of your inner man, where you will build love through the 222, now is a complete spiritual path. And notice that this originally on the root, this Nun was fallen. This is no longer fallen. So this is the process of being redeemed, or buying and selling, which is necessary, has now raised you up to be a spirit being. This is no longer fallen flesh. And they walk connected to the Father in the power of meekness. So everything that led up, everything prior, all of this prior, every single thing that we went to is telling us this process will get us to the point where we have different flesh now, incorruptible flesh. And how do they do that? From their manna. They are connected to and a part of, from the manna, the living water teachings of mother and father while they were in the fallen flesh. And now mankind is anasha. Anasha. We started with nasha, where they said it was woman, but it's not, it's mankind. But now it's mankind who is led by the Spirit and is one. So we have the Spirit of Mother and the Spirit of Father. They have become one because they went through the spiritual journey through the fire, which burned up the beast. They went through the purifying fires. And just a side note here, all of Sheen is fire. Noon is in the middle. They are living fire. This is connected to the seraphim. They are now living fire. That's so amazing. And there's that Rashita. Remember we were talking about principalities and powers? This is the same word for first fruits. Rashita. I don't know about you, but that's super fantastic. So as first fruits, we have dominion. There are no principalities and powers over us. We become the principalities and powers. And do you know how they land the plane on this one? Look at this. This is the word for God. These are the principalities and powers that are the teaching shepherds of God as they are God. They are the Els. They are the strong leaders that have the staff of authority that bring forth revelation of oneness. I and my Father are one. I come in the way of light to teach you this because I have become the first fruit. I am my own principality and power over myself as a headship, having dominion over my own body in my temple as a sovereign. And how did I do it? I connected to the teacher of light that took me through the process of the word. So now I can speak, say, and declare as coming as mother, to bring the bitter message at first, but it will be the oneness of mother and the oneness of father through the living water teachings that will raise you up to become a first fruit yourself. That is what qualifies the 144,000. And it's open to everyone. If you can see it, you can become it. That is some really good news.